There it is. I finally succumbed and bought myself a bag of Dark Arts coffee. Let's see what it's like. So welcome back to Coffee with GPA. First of all, my sincerest apologies. It's been a long time since I did my last video. However, sometimes things get in the way of doing these reviews. I'm hoping it will change though. So for today's review, I was really kind of trying to do something a bit different, and I stumbled across this. And by stumbled, I actually searched out the company, but I found this coffee as a bit of a newbie, and I'm really excited about it. So this is the Lockdown Costa Rican coffee by Dark Arts Coffee. Now, I'm the first one to admit I am massively behind when it comes to this brand. However, they've been around for a while and the hype on social media has been going on even longer. But for me, this is my complete noob attempt at looking at Dark Arts Coffee. And I've got to be honest, it's pretty awesome. Now, there was two things I loved about this. The first being that it was from Costa Rica, and I'm a huge fan of Costa Rican coffees. It takes me back to my visit there a couple of years ago. However, the second thing was that it was done using a process that I've never tried before, and it's called the anaerobic process. So you may be fairly familiar with honey processed coffees. Certainly Costa Rican coffees use a lot of honey processing. And in a nutshell, it's where the mucilage is left onto the coffee bean itself and then dried. Now this is very similar, the difference being the fermentation process takes part in a massive vat that's completely free of oxygen. So it's, I guess, a little bit like a vacuum. Now when the cherry is depulped, the mucilage is left on and they're dried in these massive tankers. This is what results in that anaerobic process. It's quite unique fermentation. So I've got to be honest, that really kind of generated a few thought processes in my head. Now, as a brand, as I said, I've never really tried them before, but I love the whole look of it. I love the kind of excitement behind it as well. So when I did need to buy a new one, I thought this would be a good opportunity. Now, it's not the cheapest coffee. I think I paid £36 for it for a kilo bag. Admittedly, I've enjoyed it quite a lot, and I've gone through about 600 grams of this in the last 4 days. So there's obviously something in it. But I think if you get a 250 gram bag, it's about £12. Sometimes it's worth buying a kilo bag though, especially if you know that it's a region that you really like. So this for me was a kind of obvious choice. So I think what we need to do is make ourselves an espresso and give it a taste test to see what we actually get from it. However, one thing first of all, let's open up the bag just so we can get a sense of what the bag smells like first of all. Now bean size, fairly sort of small to semi-medium sized beans, but they've got a nice sort of light medium roast, which is what I always warm to anyway. But it's amazingly sweet. Now, having tried this a few times before, I know that it tastes different to how it smells, but in the bag, you just get this lovely, almost like cashew sort of thickness, quite sort of medium chocolate, lots and lots of brown sugar in that. And you can almost tell that it's going to have a slight fruity tang to it, almost like quite apricotty or quite peachy. But you can still smell what I would call black forest flavours. Loads of chocolate, loads of black cherry. That is, to me personally, I know that other people are going to see things slightly different, but I definitely pick up black cherry on this and that chocolate. So this is a really lovely one for the taste buds and for the rest of the senses. So that's what it looks and smells like. Let's see what it actually tastes like. Let's make ourselves an espresso and we'll give it a shot. So there we've got our espresso. So let's give this a little try to see what we can taste from the first sip. and also see if it kind of works with that anaerobic process. Now, this is quite a tricky one because I think what it's going to taste like to me might be very different to other people, but the first thing that I get is that whole dark, you know, like the Lindt chocolate, about 70 or 80% cocoa, and then there's sweet notes in there of like brown sugar, maybe some fig, maybe black cherry, but it's got a very quite luxurious first smell. It's really good again, just what you would expect from a coffee of this sort of calibre in particular. Right, to me this is very similar to a coffee that I tried last year from Olfactory Coffee. To me personally, it feels like it's bursting with flavours of black cherry, brown sugar and that dark chocolate. It's typically acidic, as you would expect from a Costa Rican coffee. They tend to have different types of acid characteristics, I guess, to it. But it's just really luxurious. As it starts to cool as well, so this has been sort of like a minute or so, or maybe even a couple more minutes than that, but it's really lovely the way that the fruit notes in it really start to emphasise. When you first try it, I would say it's more the chocolate side that you get, the heavier tones, but as it starts to cool back, it's the black cherry now. All too often, if you go and buy supermarket coffee, you may find that what you get in terms of cost effectiveness and caffeine, you lack in a lot of good quality flavour. And I think that's why you pay a premium for things like this. You do get a lot of body, you get a great finish, but it is just that whole tasting experience that's so good. Now I'm going to be honest, I've gone through a lot of this over the last week. I bought my kilo bag last Saturday. It cost me 36 quid and it was with free postage. And I've gone through about 500 to 600 grams of it this week. But I keep going back to it and it just continues to revert back to that happiness every time, to the point where my morning ritual of making coffee, well actually my morning ritual of making espresso has been very much brought back to the fore. So this is the Lockdown Coffee by Dark Arts Coffee, available for £36 as a kilo bag or around £12 as a 250 gram bag. Either way, you're in for a really good treat. So until next time, keep enjoying your coffee and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.